sometimes I notice that, myself included, that we go internal so much that we forget that we're connected to this beautiful matrix that's available to us, and it's a resource of support. So we get so internally tunneled that we then become so independent that that is actually creating the block, is not letting the resources of support in to help create whatever it is that you're wanting to create.
That's very true. And I guess the next question is then, how do you let those resources in?
Well, it starts with the petition being put out into the universe. I'm looking for this. I'm wanting guidance with this. I'm asking for support with this. First things first, I let my spirit team come in and support me. Mm-hmm. Then I start to look at how possibly there's people around me that are actually here to support me, and I'm just skewing the perspective and not seeing the support as support. But once the petition is out into the universe, that's step one for me. Step two is then allowing am I creating the environment in my body, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, to be able to receive the support as it comes in? So I'll give you an example. Several years ago, I was in a bit of a financial situation with my husband where we'd been living month to month for many years. COVID hit. Both of us instantly lost our jobs, and the money we were getting from the government wasn't paying the bills. So I decided to go to another town. I had one credit card left that I could use at a Costco, which is like a big warehouse shopping center in the North America. And on my way home, I was in a 22 car pileup. And wow. When I'm like sandwiched and squished in this car and I have a neck injury, and all of my attention should have been on my concern for me getting to a hospital and making sure that I got the care that I needed, all that I could think about was, I've just totaled the only car we have because we had to sell my husband's. I can't afford the paramedic that's coming. And I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight because I don't have a visa to put on for a hotel because I was about 2 hours away from home. And in that moment, I got so angry with the situation that I was in that I just swore that I would never be in this financial position again. Fast forward a few months later, I was putting the resource out there. Like, I know that I'm in the vocation that I'm meant to be in. And how can I be in this vocation and also be able to support my family the way that I want to be supporting my family? And the way that teacher came in was a connection of dots that I couldn't have imagined if I tried to make it up and make my own movie on it. It was me listening to a webinar with someone that I admire. She brought on a guest speaker. This guest speaker said something that hit me. I reached out to her, and it was just a series of events that I ended up in this training session with her. And the point that I'm trying to make in this long-winded story is that putting the petition out there, I don't want to be in this position ever again. Show me how to not be in this position. But then to not then be open to receive how the support wants to come in. This is a big point for a lot of people. They're like, I'm praying, I'm doing it, I'm asking, I'm trying to connect to my guides and teachers. And they're so focused on the doing that we forget that there's an exhale that happens, and we relax into the receivership of what's coming in. And that's the point where I was able to be like, oh, I see I'm supposed to align with that person. I don't know how. She costs a heck of a lot of money. I have no idea how I'm going to work with this woman, but here's my breadcrumbs, and I'm following and just seeing how it unfolds.
Yeah, love it. That makes sense. So my question to you is then, God, is that when you had to have that moment, do you think that you were in that moment because you hadn't been listening to already what is trying to attract your attention from your larger group? Yeah, or do you feel the other way around, that it happened, that then it just happened to turn inward, and then you're now more on your purpose? Because I guess the question I always kind of ponder on, not that it really matters, is that, is it laid out for me? Is my divine purpose laid out through my life, or am I kind of semi working with, because obviously we have free will as well at the same time. So Not that I dwell on it too much, but just listening to you share that, then it got me thinking.
Well, I think the free will comes into in like we have choice in every moment. So I could have several months later had the same scenario line up, and when I saw this teacher interviewing this individual, oh great, not for me. I can't afford it. Like the excuse comes in as to why not to do it, and that is my free will to choose not to do that. Um, how I sort of view it from the field of the Akasha when I work with it, and people ask me future questions, the future is not written in stone. It has so many different energies working with it simultaneously, but there are certain potential energies that are stronger than others. So, for example, is the trajectory that I went on one that was already laid out, or was all the energy coming in at that moment that it was right for me to choose to step into that? I don't personally like to think that things are predestined because I don't like to be told what to do. So I like to always feel like I have sovereignty, that I have the ability to choose and not choose. And this is one of the conditions that we get when we come to Earth. So that's just my own personal viewpoint on it. And it's what I get shown when I'm working in the energetic realm. Um, but I know that there's lots of philosophies out there that would contradict that, and that's okay too.
No, it's beautiful. I like because on my own journey, when I look back, there's been defining moments, and I hear the saying, "It's from the universe. It's like a tickle of a feather.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's a bit of wood, and then it's a Mack truck if you're not listening.
Yeah.
To like take it on." And they got to a point where I had the Mack truck many years ago to go. And looking back, I can kind of see patterns along the way in my heart. I knew I should have been pivoting earlier. Like I'd learned what I needed to learn from that growth aspect and move on, but I kind of held on to
So there's
because
another
of the fear
point
of
here
change.
that I
Yeah.
just want to bring, I just want to highlight. Like you shared off camera that you had had a Kundalini awakening.
Hmm.
That's a tremendous amount of energy that comes in and creates this upgrade from a cellular level all the way through. Now, if your whole system wasn't ready to have that experience, you could have broken down rather than broken through.
Hmm.
So yes, there's other cues in your history that are showing you like, oh, you could have saved yourself a lot of grief and done this 3 years earlier. True. But was your system ready to handle the upgrade at that time? Like
Yeah.
if we
Yeah.
consider the fact that perhaps this isn't our only lifetime that we've had with this soul, all of the lifetimes have been building up to lead to the moments that you're having in this lifetime. And those extra 3 years of growth, expansion, wisdom, practice, whatever it was that you did, is just sort of the last stitch in the quilt that needed to come in so that when that Kundalini experience happened for you, your system was able to like upgrade rather than break apart. You don't want to stick the plug in the wall and have the fuse break. You want the lights to go on when that happens, right? And some souls, like your soul, probably needs that big of a something to happen to get your attention. And the other soul just needs the feather on the cheek, to use your example. And then the person's like, oh, what's over in this corner? I'm going to go explore it. And different souls are different. Some people need big risks, big experiences, galvanic, kind of cathartic things. And other people just kind of tiptoe along, and they're almost like a pixie fairy when they're going through their soul's advancement. It's just very light, very free, very like, oh, and look where we just arrived. And it's very natural.
Mhm. Yeah. No, makes sense. Complete sense. So on your journey then, after you had that point of pain and getting so angry and using that as a fuel to shift direction, I'm assuming that's when you started leaning into the Akashic records and learning those aspects. How did that work come about for you then from that point? And having the courage to go there, because I know you said your mentor would cost a lot of money, but I don't even know how that's going to work and everything. Because I see it all the time with
Yeah.
people are like, I'm so ready to quit my job. I'm so ready to lean into, I want to help people more, especially once they start having freeing up themselves, you know?
So when COVID hit and the studio shut down, that gave me lots of opportunity to just have more meditation time. So, and my husband was home at the same time, so he's watching the three kids. And in my meditation, 3 nights in a row, just someone's name just kind of came to mind. And by the third night, I was like, okay, well, this is happening 3 times in a row. I'm going to just reach out and email this individual. So this is someone that I grew up with. We were family friends, but we weren't really close. She was about 5 years older than me. And I'd run into her in the summertime the previous year and said hello to her, but I hadn't connected with her since. So I reached out and sent an email and I said, look, your name has come up 3 times in meditation. I have no idea what this means, but I sense that you do, and I'll let you take it from there. So she emailed back and she was like, so glad that you reached out. This is actually how I advertise, is through the ethers. And I do Akashic record trainings and readings. Would you like to have one? So I'd started off with a reading. It was very clear in the reading that I was subconsciously already working with the Akashic records. So I quickly went through the trainings. So I was working with the records. And then when I had that introduction to the teacher to work with, so I have always worked in the vocation that resonated with me. I've been very blessed in not ever feeling like I don't know who I am and what I'm meant to do in life. But where I've fallen short is that I've done what I love for 16 to 20 years and never been able to actually make any money doing what I'm doing. So that's where I was getting angry and frustrated. I knew that there's so much wealth within me, but for some reason it wasn't expressing on a physical level. And then even to take this a step further, I have a high level of integrity. So there's a part of me that felt like a fake or an imposter, because I'm like, how can I have so much connection to energy, but I can't actually bring in financial abundance to myself? It felt like a strong disconnect and it didn't sit well with me. When I made the decision to work with this teacher, what I said to her was, I'm a yes, but I have no idea how I'm going to get this money. And so what she did with me is we did, and I still use this to this day with a lot of clients. We went into a meditation where we meditated on the future version of myself that had already finished the training and was experiencing a life of abundance and comfort, and asked her what she did at this point in time to get started. And what came to me was to reach out to a friend of mine that was a bookkeeper. Now, it made no sense to me at all in the moment, but I said, well, that's my next step. I guess I'll do that. So I reached out to this bookkeeper. I'm like, I need to, it was $40,000 and I had $500 in my bank account, just to give you a reference here.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how I can get the money. And she was like, oh, I bet you I can find a place that can give you a business loan that's not going to ask you too many questions. Anyway, she just hooked me up to this sweet site. Within 2 days, I got the approval. And then it came back on me of like, okay, we've knocked out all your obstacles. Are you actually going to say yes now and do this thing? And when I said yes, there was so much transformation that happened. Just, it wasn't actually, the course was phenomenal. But the biggest transformation came in the willingness to take that big of a risk on me, not anyone else, on me, and see what happens. So I was sobbing and crying and wondering if I should do this or not do this, and feeling like I just didn't even want to be in my body. And my husband's like, if anyone can do this, you can do it. And that's where he's great. He's such a good champion. But he's also someone that doesn't look at the finances, and he's like, whatever, you go for it. And it was a wonderful experience. But the point is that these transitions came through in different ways. Ask me to meditate on myself and ask if I'm a yes or a no, that's fine for me. But to physically put my money where my mouth is, that's harder for me to do. So those experiences of joining the Akashic Records was just an easy transition. And then the actual physical transition of cleaning up my money story, that was not as easy to do. Probably one of the hardest things
Yeah.
I've done.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
I had the same issues growing up in the valleys of Wales, in the relationship with money. I've had to change myself. First of all, thank you for your honesty. I had goosebumps when you shared that then, because I can relate in so many levels. And I just want to pluck out the word willingness, because I remember interviewing Robbie Holtz, who wrote a book called The Secret of Aboriginal Healing, and where her partner was came here to Australia, and was the first Western man to be taken into the Aboriginals in 40 odd years.
Wow.
Incredible book, incredible story, and I always mention it when I can. But the very first thing they said, if we're going to work with you, and the healing is to know that you are 100%, like willingness was the word. So willingness was the first step. And if the willingness wasn't there, or they felt any kind of resistance, they wouldn't proceed in
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So when I heard you say willingness then, and the fact, it's like you kind of know when you're all in,
Yeah.
when you've finally taken the step. Okay, I'm not turning back now. I'm actually in.
Yeah.
There's magic in that. That
Yeah.
the intention and the power behind that is so powerful.